Alright, so last race, myself and the old KDX here took a beating. I got beat by PJ. I was gassed at the end of the race. I think that was because I had a cold. But I was not prepared to go fast. The speed brought out some problems with this bike. On lap 2, my fork started developing this squeak, which I assume is they were out of fluid, because I did have just a slight leak in my bars, or a lot of play in them. So in this video, I'm going to change out these bushings and rebuild the forks. This is pretty much a whole front end revival, just to get this thing back on track to kick PJ's butt. I need my belt back. So we're going to jump into it. So this is what I've got. I've got some handlebar bushings and fork seals, dust shields, everything to make the forks better. All right, let's get this front end apart. Well, she's completely taken apart, just down to nothing. These handlebar bushings are just completely destroyed. They're so malleable, it's crazy. These ones are actually, they may be plastic. So I don't know how well they'll work. They have a little bit of, they're not as tight fitting as the other ones. So we'll see. Aftermarket parts suck. I'm going to put some grease on them, on the actual bar risers, to make them fit a little better and just keep the threads nice. But yeah, these drop right back into the triple clamps. Just bam. Need to sandwich them down nice and tight. Got the forks off. You may notice I struggled with the fork caps. I always loosen the caps on the bike before taking them off. That way you don't have to wrestle with them in the vise and get the forks all marred up. Tech tip right there. So these bushings, they absorbed a lot of slack when I tightened them down. You may notice my bars are finally straight. They have been crooked for the longest time. That was just because those bushings were completely blown out. Now I should have a lot more control of this thing, and my hands are probably gonna get more fatigued because these bushings are a lot stiffer. So I could get more arm pump, but we'll see. So this fork actually wasn't blown, but the oil looked like terrible. But this fork, this one is blown super bad. See all the oil up on the actual fork itself? Just yuck. So that's no good. So I just did this fork just because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before I put it on camera. It took me a little longer than I thought, but I had to take it apart twice. So that's why I didn't film it. We're going to get this one knocked out real quick though. First thing first, and that's to get the little clip out of the fork seal, or the dust seal. But yeah, that is just dirty in there. Bam. And now you want to separate the dampening rod from the actual fork. So to do that, you compress the spring a little bit. I'm just using my vise to hold the spring in place with a nice rag, and then a floor jack to put some load on it. And you can just loosen this pinch bolt right here, pinch nut. There it goes. I take the load off the jack and everything falls apart. And now you can take out the spring. Put that down there. There might be some residual oil in there, so just go and dump it out. And to get the fork actually separated, you just use it like a slide hammer. So basically just yank it apart. There it goes. Just slide off the old seals. Got the dust seal and the fork seal. Yuck. And make sure your bushings are good and clean, not all scratched up and whatnot, and then just reinstall your new stuff. Before you go pushing down too much with the actual fork pounder tool, I like to get them in by hand first. That way I don't destroy anything. Now I have a fork seal tool because I do this a lot. So you just take your tool and you just beat the seal into place. It takes a little bit, but you'll get it. And once you get the seal part in far enough, you take the clip, drop it down on in there, and just like any C-clip, you're to work without flying across the room. There we go. And now to fill it. Now the way I'm doing it is I'm measuring from, it's all the way compressed, I'm measuring 120 millimeters from the very top to the oil. I'm using a dial caliper with a depth finder on it, or internal bore measurer. And I recently just rode to AutoZone and got the best fork oil possible. Bam! Cast oil, transmission ATF4. It works. It's basically equivalent to 7 weight, and it doesn't turn all black after a couple rides. It doesn't break down as fast. It's cheap. And to measure it, I take my light, I look down into the fork, and I take my measuring stick. And this is really hard to do it. And I look to see where the level's at. Now with this, I have about 1 inch left to go until I start hitting fluid, so need to add more. I just got the level perfect, so now it's time to reassemble and put it back on the bike. Take your spring and you drop it on in there. And now you want to find a way, oh shoot. Make sure you have the dampening rod through the spring, because that's what I forgot to do. But I got it, now you can just reassemble it. And utilizing the vise again, not even clamping, I'm just using it to compress the fork spring. Now make sure you tighten that jam nut back up. And give her one good ugga-dugga. Yep. Ta-da. Bring the fork tube back up. Tighten it back down. And don't forget your fork boot. And once everything is nice and tight on the bike, that's when you tighten the caps down. Oh shoot. Just made a mess. And now you can tighten the caps. And then you just put your bike, oh, it's already back together. Oh, okay. My last bit of track damage is my headlight. This thing has been busted for longer than last race. So now I'm gonna fix it. Unfortunately, I did break my headlight bulb, so I need to order a new one of those. Clumsy. There she lies. Ugh. What a waste. But I'm going to test this thing out and see how it handles now with new bushings and fork seals. Wow, that felt a million times better than what it was during the race. It's a lot stiffer, and the bars are more, they don't flex. So I feel more in control and in tune with the bike. I'm excited to ride this thing this weekend. Going to PJ's house, hopefully. But that about wraps it up for this video. I did the suspension, I did the front end, did the bushings, I fixed the headlight. Bike's ready to go. See you guys at the next race. This message is for PJ. PJ, I know you're watching. I appreciate that. But just know that victory is short-lived, buddy. I'm coming back for my belt. I'm going to get it. You better be ready.